Welcome to Zoe Stories. I became a bridesmaid. Jake had always been close with his cousin Megan. Growing up, they were more like siblings and cousins, inseparable partners in crime, always spending weekends together, causing trouble, and sharing secrets. So when Megan invited Jake to her wedding, he was excited. It was going to be an emotional day for her, and he was eager to support her however he could. What Jake didn't expect, however, was that his support would involve stepping into the role of one of her bridesmaids, a role that would require more than just showing up in a suit. The night before the wedding, the house was buzzing with activity. Megan's family home was filled with relatives, last-minute preparations, and the occasional glass of wine to take the edge off the stress of the big day. Jake was lounging in the living room, catching up with relatives, when Megan burst into the room, her face flushed with panic. "I can't believe this is happening," she exclaimed, pacing back and forth with a phone clutched in her hand. "What's going on?" Jake asked, sitting up straighter. "Katie, one of my bridesmaids, just called," Megan said, her voice strained with frustration. "She's sick and can't make it to the wedding tomorrow. I'm down one bridesmaid, and I have no time to find a replacement." Jake frowned. "Can't you just have one less bridesmaid? I mean, it's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world." Megan shook her head vehemently. "No, the whole wedding party will be uneven. The photos will look strange, the ceremony will feel off. It's going to throw everything out of balance." Jake, feeling for his cousin, tried to think of a solution. "Well, you could always throw me in there," he joked. "I mean, how hard could it be to fill in as a bridesmaid?" He meant it as a joke, but Megan's eyes lit up as she looked at him with sudden wild hope. "Jake, that's actually not a bad idea." Jake blinked, caught off guard. "Wait, what?" "Think about it," Megan said, a grin spreading across her face. "You're about the same height as Katie, and with the right dress and makeup, I bet you could totally pull it off. You'd be saving the wedding, Jake." Jake's first instinct was to laugh off the suggestion. It was absurd. But as he looked at Megan, who was practically begging him with her eyes, he began to feel the weight of the situation. This was her wedding day, a day she'd been planning for over a year, and it was falling apart at the last minute. And, to be honest, there was a small part of him that was intrigued by the idea. It wasn't like he hadn't seen guys dress up as women before, whether in movies or for costume parties. How hard could it really be? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "All right, fine. I'll do it. But don't expect me to be graceful in heels." Megan let out a squeal of excitement and hugged him tightly. "Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're going to be the best bridesmaid ever. Just wait, I'll make you look amazing." And so began Jake's transformation. That night, Megan, along with a few of her other bridesmaids, whisked him away to the upstairs bathroom for what they called bridesmaid boot camp. It started with a crash course in how to walk in heels. At first, Jake stumbled like a newborn deer, wobbling and nearly falling over with every step, much to the amusement of Megan and her friends. But after a while, he began to get the hang of it. Small, deliberate steps, keeping his weight centered over his feet. Next came hair and makeup. Megan's best friend Leah was a wizard with makeup brushes and palettes, and before Jake knew it, she had shaped his brows, contoured his face, and added just the right amount of eyeshadow and liner to give him a soft, feminine look. His normally short, messy hair was styled into soft waves, and by the time they were done, Jake could barely recognize himself in the mirror. Staring back at him was someone new, someone who could, with a little imagination, be a bridesmaid. "Jake, you look incredible," Megan said, her voice filled with awe. "Or should I say Jenna?" Jake raised an eyebrow. "Jenna?" "Yeah, Jenna. It's your bridesmaid name. You can't be Jake while you're wearing a dress." Jake, now Jenna, laughed. "All right, Jenna it is." The next morning, the transformation was completed with the dress. Megan had managed to find a bridesmaid gown in Jake's size, a soft lavender dress that, to his surprise, fit perfectly. The gown hugged his body in a way that was surprisingly flattering, and as he stepped into the dress and zipped it up, he couldn't help but feel a strange sense of excitement. The final touch was a pair of lavender heels to match the dress, and though Jake still felt a bit wobbly in them, he managed to stand tall and confident as the other bridesmaids fussed over him, adding jewelry and making last-minute adjustments. When the moment came to leave for the wedding venue, Jake found himself both nervous and exhilarated. The stares from family and friends were inevitable, but instead of awkward glances or whispered jokes, they were met with surprise and admiration. It was clear that Jenna had pulled off the bridesmaid look far better than anyone expected. The ceremony itself was a blur of emotions. Walking down the aisle in heels was its own adventure, but Jake managed to keep his balance and stay in step with the other bridesmaids. He felt a swell of pride as he watched Megan exchange vows with her partner, and for the first time, he began to understand the significance of the role he was playing. This wasn't just about filling in for a missing bridesmaid. This was about being there for his cousin on one of the most important days of her life. And as he stood there in his lavender gown, he realized that he felt more comfortable in this role than he ever imagined he would. The reception was where things really got interesting. As guests began to mingle and celebrate, Jake found himself receiving compliments from all directions. Some of the women were fascinated by his transformation, asking about his dress and makeup, while a few of the men, unaware that Jenna was actually Jake, offered flirtatious comments. It was strange, yet thrilling, to be on the receiving end of such attention. One guest, in particular, stood out. Her name was Claire, a close friend of Megan's, and she was one of the few people who seemed to recognize Jake right away. But instead of teasing him or making him feel self-conscious, she complimented him. "You're really pulling this off," Claire said with a smile as they stood near the bar, drinks in hand. "I never would have guessed this was your first time wearing a dress." Jake chuckled, feeling a blush creep into his cheeks. "Yeah, it's definitely a new experience, but it's kind of fun, to be honest. I'm surprised by how natural it feels." Claire tilted her head, her smile widening. "Natural, huh? Does that mean Jenna might make another appearance someday?" Jake hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to answer. The truth was, he didn't know. But there was something about the way he felt, something about the confidence and freedom he had experienced throughout the day, that made him wonder if this could be more than just a one-time thing. "Maybe," he said with a grin. "Who knows?" The night wore on, and by the time the wedding reception was winding down, Jake found himself reluctant to change back into his regular clothes. He had spent the entire day as Jenna, and it had been one of the best experiences of his life. He'd made new connections, formed deeper bonds with people, and most importantly, he discovered a side of himself he never knew existed. As Jake and Megan shared a quiet moment at the end of the night, Megan looked at him with a soft smile. "You were amazing today," she said. "I couldn't have asked for a better bridesmaid." Jake grinned, feeling a sense of pride swell in his chest. "I'm glad I could help. Honestly, it was more fun than I expected." Megan's smile turned mischievous. "So, do you think you'd ever want to do it again? You know, be Jenna." Jake thought about it for a moment. The idea no longer felt strange or intimidating. In fact, it felt like something he might want to explore further. He didn't have all the answers yet, but one thing was clear. Today had changed him in ways he hadn't anticipated. "Yeah," he said slowly, a smile creeping across his face. "I think I might." The next morning, as Jake looked at the lavender bridesmaid dress hanging in his room, a sense of peace washed over him. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for certain. Jenna wasn't just a bridesmaid for a day. She was a part of him now, and he was excited to see where this journey of self-discovery would take him next. Thank you for joining us on another captivating journey through Zoe's stories. Remember to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a tale. Until next time, keep exploring, keep imagining, and keep believing in the magic of storytelling. See you in the next chapter.